Hi there guys, I hope you are having a good day. Now Eddie Hearn has revealed that the plan for Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury is to hopefully announce the fight and the contracts signed in the next couple of weeks. Then they'd make a separate announcement with a specific date and venue when the deal is finalised. So that is what Eddie Hearn has explained about this fight. They are looking to announce it and have it set in stone, but the date and venue will still be subject to change because that is something they haven't just pinned down at the moment. So where will the fight take place? We're gonna kind of say it's Saudi. I don't see it going anywhere else. It could do, but I don't really see it happening. It obviously won't be UK, it obviously won't be the US. So I'm going with Saudi. The date we don't know too much about. We do know it will be in June. So of course there are some minor details that need to be stretched out. The Alexander Usyk situation seems to have been wrapped up. Obviously the WBO are now going to grant the exception for AJ to go and fight Fury, or at least that is what we are led to believe, considering the WBO have contacted Alexander Usyk with regards to sanctioning this undisputed fight. So it seems like this fight is on. It will happen in June, and they will be looking to make an announcement to say the fight is on, then separate announcements as to when the fight will be and where it will be. Now of course, one thing that has been lingering in the background that we haven't heard too much about over the past couple of weeks, which is this Deontay Wilder situation. Apparently there was a mediation that concluded and now they are going to arbitration, or at least that is what Shelley Finkel has said. Does he just live in a world of his own, or is this actually happening? But I mean, I don't see this being a problem. I can't see it stopping Tyson Fury versus AJ. Because, come on, after going through mediation, if there was any wrinkle that meant that Deontay Wilder could get Tyson Fury back in the ring and that he had that chance at the third fight once again, then that would have happened. Tyson Fury would not be able to get out of it. There must be some way in which this contract has actually expired because Wilder had many opportunities to make the fight happen. June, October, December, the dates, they all fell at the wayside, and apparently it was Deontay Wilder who continuously said, I'm not going to be ready, I don't want to fight now because of the force majeure in the contract because of the pandemic. And then in December, can't fight again, cannot make a date, cannot be agreed. So, I mean, what is Tyson Fury supposed to do? Just allow his career to stagnate or move on to bigger and better things? Now that is what he is doing because the contract expired. And if there was anything in there that meant Deontay Wilder could get him back in the ring, then that would be happening. So I don't believe that Deontay Wilder is going to be a problem going into this fight. I don't see how he can force Tyson Fury to get back in the ring because he didn't want to fight last year. He had plenty of opportunities and he allowed them to fall at the wayside. So there is no trilogy between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. There is only undisputed between Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. Now, considering we're talking about world champions and world titles, let's talk about this WBA situation. Manny Pacquiao has been moved from WBA Super Champion to also Champion in Recess, and now Ugas has been moved from Regular Champion to Super Champion. Manny Pacquiao has been moved down the ranks to Champion in Recess. Now of course, Manny Pacquiao hasn't defended the belt since he won it against Keith Thurman in July of 2019, so if we get to July this year, that will be 2 years that the belt hasn't been defended, but that doesn't mean he should be moved to Champion in Recess. That means that they should order a fight for him in that case. They don't just move him down to Champion in Recess. A legend like that, someone who beat the champion to win the world title. Yes, he hasn't fought in a while. And let's for a moment see the ripple effect this will have on the welterweight division. If Ugas is now WBA Super Champion and Errol Spence is IBF and WBC Champion, then what does that tell you? What is going to happen next? There is going to be a unification between Errol Spence and Ugas. Now, that's an interesting fight, but that means we do not get Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford, and if this fight happens for a unification, and Errol Spence has 3 of the belts, then Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence is never going to happen. Do you know why? Because it's bad enough now. Errol Spence believes he's the A-side, he wants more money. Terence Crawford is not willing to concede that he is the lesser of the two when it comes to profile, so he's not going to take less money. So if Errol Spence then has 3 belts in that welterweight division, then that fight's never going to happen because it's just going to make the situation worse. The deal that Terence Crawford ends up getting offered will not be anything like a 60-40, it would be something like a 70-30 because he has the WBO title, one title. Errol Spence has the WBC, the IBF, and the WBA Super Championship. That is, of course, if he beats Ugas, which it's going to be a tough fight, but I would pick Errol Spence to beat him. So if that happens, there is going to be no undisputed fight between Terence Crawford and Errol Spence. It will never happen due to those facts alone. Because Errol Spence won't offer him 50-50 when he has 3 belts in the welterweight division and Terence Crawford has 1. In fact, he won't offer Terence Crawford 50-50 when he has 2 belts currently and Terence Crawford has 1. That is not going to happen. The fight won't happen now. If this happens and Errol Spence ends up fighting Ugas, the fight will never happen. Now, of course, we could say, if Terence Crawford wants that unification fight with Errol Spence and he needs more leverage to get it, why doesn't he try and get in with Ugas so that he has that leverage going into the Errol Spence fight? Well, Ugas is on PBC, the same network as Errol Spence. So what does that tell you? That tells you that the only unification fight being made in the welterweight division is between Ugas and Errol Spence. That is the only thing that is going to happen because they are both on the same network, the same problem that has occurred in trying to make the Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford fight. That is why it will never happen. Now, Ugas has felt the need to come out on social media and defend himself. It's not his fault. He is the fighter. He's getting in there doing the fighting. The governing bodies are the ones who make these kind of decisions. He isn't. So, fair play to him and congratulations. He is now WBA Super Champion. He deserves respect because he won the regular title, outclassing Ramos in his last fight. So, fair play to him. But in that same social media post, he explained that Manny Pacquiao never wanted to make a unification fight and it is his intentions to go for that immediately. He will finally get the fight he's always wanted, which is against Errol Spence. So again, that means that no Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence because Ugas and Errol Spence will be that kind of big fight in the welterweight division, and Terence Crawford will be closed out completely from having any chance of undisputed with the winner of that one. So, given what the WBA have done, they haven't just gone through multiple weight classes and made champions all of a sudden in recess just because of inactivity, and of course we have the pandemic as well. That could be a reason as to why they haven't fought throughout the year of 2020. Obviously there were still fights going on, but many fighters were inactive due to the pandemic, and let's remember Manny Pacquiao is a senator in the Philippines also, so he was very busy, he had his hands full. But there is this thing in the WBA that you can have an exemption if you have medical reasons or something like that. Obviously, those things were never provided from Manny Pacquiao and those who have been downgraded to champion in recess because it has been through multiple weight classes, but it seems like an odd decision to make given what is going on in the world and the fact that inactivity hasn't necessarily just been down to the fighters themselves in this current climate. But just that simple decision to make a legend like Manny Pacquiao a champion in recess and make Ugas suddenly super champion, that means that has a kind of ripple effect and means that Terence Crawford will not be fighting Errol Spence because we know what is going to happen. It's going to be Errol Spence versus Ugas for this big unification to see who is number 1 in that welterweight division. Terence Crawford is going to be closed out and this will be the so-called big fight, and there will be no unification fight to see who is actually number 1 between Errol Spence and Terence Crawford, the one fight we do actually want to see. Now of course there is no guarantee that Errol Spence beats Ugas, but he would be a heavy favourite going into the fight, and it is a fight that PBC would obviously want him to win. Now of course Manny Pacquiao can have an opportunity to fight Ugas for his old title, but I don't believe he is going to do that because he is looking at fights with Conor McGregor and Ryan Garcia. The Ryan Garcia one is very strange because they are talking about an exhibition, which is an odd move given he's actually still an active fighter, not a retired fighter coming back to showcase his skills. He is still an active fighter, or at least that is what we are led to believe, unless he is planning to retire, then come back all of a sudden again in an exhibition fight. But given the fact he has been moved to champion in recess and Ugas upgraded to the super champion, the fight that is going to happen next won't be Manny Pacquiao versus Ugas, it will actually be Errol Spence versus Ugas, and I don't see Manny Pacquiao challenging Ugas for his old title. He will move on to these other avenues now. I don't see him trying to get back in there for another world championship with someone like Ugas. I know that they have to keep the division moving, otherwise it stagnates, but there has been a lot of inactivity throughout the sport quite recently, and I believe they should have given Manny Pacquiao an opportunity to fight for that title at least against Ugas, and then at least Manny Pacquiao has a chance to challenge for his title in the ring. I don't believe he's going to try and make the Ugas fight now because he is looking at these other opportunities, but what that does mean for the welterweight division is we probably won't see the big fight that we have always wanted to see. And that is a great shame, just a ripple effect one decision can make. But guys, anyway, what are your thoughts on this? Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below, leave a thumbs up, and subscribe if you are new. Thanks guys.